Hi guys, what's up? Welcome to VidaPurpose. Today we have a very exciting video. We're going to be talking about the pros and cons about coffee as athletes. So I'm currently drinking tea and Kim here is drinking coffee, and we'll give you what we think about coffee.
Yeah. It sounds like we've both been on this journey of detoxing from coffee, but you are currently no longer drinking coffee, am I right?
No longer.
So I am currently drinking espresso, which I find different than a regular cup of coffee. So I did a detox and I stopped drinking coffee. And
For how long? How long did the
detox? I probably stopped drinking for at least a week. When I was drinking coffee about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, there was a certain point in my life and I was in a very high stressed situation. I was more concerned about my skincare, that I didn't really care about my energy level.
Right.
And it wasn't the first time that I detoxed from
Right, it's
coffee.
like we were concerned about our looks more than how we felt.
Yes.
Ballet dancers for you. Yeah, I mean, for me, I stopped caffeine when I was having heart palpitations, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I was in the pre-professional program. I was drinking coffee twice a day, and I started having palpitations. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was just because I was stressed. Audition time was coming up, and yeah, and my body kind of, started not feeling good, super dehydrated. Yeah, and then suddenly I realized, oh, it's because of coffee.
Wow.
So then I stopped, and now I'm fully into tea, love tea. I drink tea every morning and every afternoon. All right, so we have kind of a list of pros and cons. Yeah, we're just kind of talk about how our experiences with each one and see if, you guys can relate. And yeah, so should we start with pros or cons?
Woo! Well, everyone likes coffee, so we can start with the pros.
Okay, let's start with the pros. So it definitely keeps you going. I think
does.
that's why we all, we're hooked at some point.
Yes.
We're all hooked. I mean, you wake up, you kind of need it.
Yeah, I mean, it helps you wake up. That's for sure. It's like one of those rewards for getting out of bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it keeps you going. At the most part, it's a drug, right?
Yeah.
Caffeine's a drug, and it gives you that great energy.
Yeah.
Until it doesn't, but
exactly, until you crash.
Until you crash.
Yeah, I think for me, it's also makes me talk a lot. I think it also has to do with, the energy and just kind of gives you that kick, but also it helps for social interactions.
Right. Another thing that it's good for, if you're, having an allergic reaction and you have asthma, and you might have problems breathing, caffeine helps as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just found out because a loved one of mine was having an allergic reaction when we were in a house full of cats.
And they had coffee and they got better?
And yes.
What?
Yeah. But I mean, it helps stabilize it. Obviously, medicine is your best friend, and having that correct,
sometimes medicine is your best friend. But
You're right.
But
in
that's
that
amazing to know.
Right.
That's so good to know.
Right.
Because I'm actually allergic to cats.
Ah.
So that could really...
Yeah, I mean, first things first, get out of the house, right? Get away from the cats.
Great to know.
So that's when you might
that
do
one.
Caffeine or coffee.
Yeah. Not that one. Makes you see the world brighter. No, I'm joking. But it kind of does. So what's happening with coffee is that it's accelerating the digestive process. That's why, most of the time when you drink coffee after a meal, even if you don't have a meal inside of you, you're gonna need to go to the bathroom because it really activates the digestion process. So it's, it's an in and out. So the first con that I thought of, that made me kind of stop drinking coffee was the heart palpitations.
Right.
Scary, but at the same time, I'm glad that I saw that's what was causing it. That it wasn't actually, a heart condition, that it was just the caffeine levels were too high in my body, and my fight and flight mode was in a very, very high level. So that's why it was provoking the heart palpitations.
Right.
So I'm glad I went through that little journey there, and that I don't drink it anymore. I don't have any more of that. But if that's the case, if anyone is kind of going through that, it's probably caffeine.
Right.
If you're
and
healthy otherwise.
Right. And I mean, tea has caffeine in it, right? But the amount of
the levels
are different.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because even though I don't feel like I'm in a stressed state in which that fight or flight, I still have a reaction like with coffee, drinking regular coffee opposed to an espresso. And imagine like maybe you're in a relaxed state, but it still affects your heart.
Right.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. The other thing for me was that it was harder for me to concentrate in one thing. I was way more aware of things that were happening around me instead of just
like hyper aware.
Whatever was happening, inside of me, whatever I was doing in that moment. So that was another reason why I kind of realized that that was kind of after I stopped. That I realized, that's not happening anymore. Maybe it's because I stopped drinking coffee. So I think which is also quite cool to realize,
Yeah. It's great when you realize these things because you feel like you're more in control. And okay, this is where I want to go. How do I get there? Oh, this thing isn't helping me get to where I want to go. So I'm going to eliminate that from my diet.
Yeah.
For me, especially when I wasn't dancing as much, through the pandemic, and then when I was injured, I realized I would get anxiety. And I don't struggle normally with anxiety. I had never been diagnosed with anxiety disorder or anything of that sort. But I would remember I would be like shaky or like something's wrong, and I felt I needed to figure something out. And I was like, and I felt like it was mental. Like, I was like, there's something emotionally and mentally going on in which I'm all of a sudden hyper aware, and I'm reacting very strongly when I shouldn't be, because there's nothing I really should be, reacting to. So when I started researching coffee alternatives, because for me, how I live my life by my faith, having these nudges that were telling me like, maybe you should not drink coffee as much, or maybe you should lay off the coffee. And I didn't understand why. So sometimes I ignore that voice, but this time, because I went through detoxing from alcohol, and it's almost been a year, and that had so many benefits that I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to this nudge, what my inner self is telling me. So I started to get off coffee, and as I was looking for alternatives, I found this brand that started talking about why the founder chose not to drink coffee anymore, and they talked about anxiety. And then
you related.
And I related to my story. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And so that's kind of when I realized it too. And then of course, like, I felt calmer when I wasn't drinking espresso anymore and I was drinking teas. And so that was one of the cons. And then also one of the cons I would say is that the slump. I didn't realize that I would have a slump. Like, my energy level would just crash.
Was that while you were drinking, like throughout the day, you'd have the coffee, you'd feel great, and then after a couple hours, you'd crash? Right.
Another con is that I try not to drink coffee, especially like if it's not decaf, after a certain time of the day, because I can't sleep.
That is so smart that you did that. I'm so glad you did that. Yeah, because it really affects.
Yeah. Some people, it doesn't.
Some people, they're
fine, but I would imagine most aren't.
I was actually thinking about a con of dehydration. Dehydration is huge, especially as professional dancers.
Right.
It affects, the muscles start getting, really tight. You get cramps more often than not. There's great things that comes from it, but then, you don't want your muscles dehydrated and cramping while you're, in a third act ballet.
Right.
You really don't.
That's true. And if you're already someone that doesn't drink water often, you should be drinking even more if you drink coffee, because it affects, your hydration levels, your muscles, especially as dancers or athletes. Yeah, I wish someone would have told me that when I would not understand why I was cramping so much, especially as females on our menstrual cycles.
Even more so.
Even more than. Yeah.
I actually never drank coffee to skip meals, so that was never really my experience, but yours is, so please.
Yeah, for me, as a ballet dancer, finally being submerged into this culture when I was going for a professional career in it, I realized being skinny was an important thing. and also just learning how to eat differently and healthier. But I did realize like, oh, I need to count my calories in order to maintain my weight. And I learned that through watching other dancers doing that. And so for me, I would eliminate calories, and I saw that coffee was, at that point, I just started getting into coffee. My first introduction to coffee was like a white mocha, which is like loaded with sugar and horrible for you. Yeah. But when I was like drinking the white mocha, but then when I realized how many calories it had, I was like, oh, I don't want to drink that many calories, but I started getting introduced to the flavor of coffee. So I switched up to regular coffee with milk and sugar, and then like an Americano and stuff as such. But yeah, it would just suppress my appetite. So I didn't really need much for breakfast, maybe like a Luna bar. And this is, when I say this, is because we, as a pre-professional dancer, I was dancing from 9 a.m. until like our lunch maybe at 2 p.m. So you would just have 180 calories from a protein bar or whatever, and nothing until lunch.
Yeah, which is so little, and I think that's why it's still shocking to think about that there's no one there still now to kind of coach us through what we should or not be eating for our goals as professional athletes. It's kind of scary,
especially as an athlete. And I can't give advice to people that are just trying to lose weight on a basis, because I actually disagree. When people skip meals, I don't think it's a bad thing, especially if you're not active at all. If you're sitting at your desk, or if you're just
giving a little break to the body, it's actually not that bad.
Right.
But when you're fully an athlete working 10 hours a day of warm-up class, then rehearsals, then a show, that there's no way.
You're
like, you need
the,
fuel. You need fuel. Your body needs fuel.
Right.
Before and after and through. Like there's not really much space to skipping meals, and there is ways to find your diet. There is ways to find your your happy medium of, I'm feeling good with my body, my energy is in great levels. So there's definitely ways. It just takes a little bit of time, but I think it's totally worth it.
A lot of dancers, male and females, do that, and I can't criticize anyone for doing that, but it's a gray area, I would say.
No, there's no space to criticize about it, because we all want to get there, we all want to get the parts, we all want to dance, we all want to feel with the most energy as possible. We all want to be on stage and doing what we've been training and being mentored for years and years. So like there's definitely no space for judging, but at the same time, once we gain the knowledge and what we're doing, what we're drinking, what we're putting into our body to feel better in ourselves and to really have that energy to to reach those goals, whatever those goals are. Let's do it. So we have a couple of alternatives here that Kim brought out. So what is this?
So this is called mud water. And I recently discovered this because of social media. Their marketing, whoever their marketing person is, has done a great job. And the founder and the culture and the community that they've developed, they talk about more than just their product. They just talk about great well-being. But this is, mud water is basically has several different components, but one of the main ones I would say is lion's mane, which is I believe a mushroom. But they also have cacao and cordyceps,
chaga, reishi, cinnamon, turmeric, and Himalayan salt.
Yes.
I mean, we know turmeric. I definitely put turmeric in my recipes.
Yeah.
Great for inflammation and everything. Yeah. So it looks nice. So how's the flavor?
Masala chai, black tea, ginger, cardamom, cloves, nutmeg, and black pepper. So the flavor is great.
Did it satisfy that need of coffee?
It did. It did, because I mean, it smells pretty good. It looks really interesting.
It smells very good.
Like the mud component is very much so.
Okay.
I add oat milk to it usually. Put hot water, mix it up, and drink it. The only complaints I would have is that sometimes I'm not residue. Residue at the end. So you have to mix it up like a little bit. If you're not going to drink it in one shot, which most probably won't, continue to stir it.
All right.
Felt great, and I didn't get the slump. I got the continuous energy that I was looking for, and I got the taste.
Amazing.
Of course, when I first started detoxing from coffee, I went to tea.
Yeah.
This is a green tea.
Amazing.
Loose leaf is what I would prefer. And then this is matcha, which I like to make like matcha lattes or just like I like my matcha hot.
Yeah.
And this is from Third Culture Bakery, which is here in Berkeley. But I like the ritual. I think that's another thing that some people like coffee is like the ceremonial
There's definitely
ritual. You know,
Yeah.
you have your, especially if you're doing a pour over and you grind your own beans. It feels great.
Yeah.
So with this, I got like the proper matcha whisk.
Alright.
I got the fun bowl. I even had like the stand where you put the whisk on.
Right.
And
Amazing.
so it became like my new ritual, and it smells great.
Yeah.
As you see, I'm still drinking espresso. I try to take it out completely, but I already did the alcohol, so I'm just like slowing down. What's your story?
Exactly. What's your story?
These are our stories, our
Yes,
pros and cons from our
exactly,
experiences.
for coffee. Yeah, let
What are
us
yours?
know. Yeah, if you have any stories, share it with us. We'd love to hear about it. Oh, this has been so fun. Thanks so much. Yeah. We've been talking about doing this for like a month, no?
Yeah.
So catching up with Kim.
Yes.
We danced together for many years.
Yeah.
And and it's just so nice to get back together and drink coffee and tea. I think that's gonna be it for today's video. This has been so fun. Keep in touch, comment, like, and subscribe. More videos coming your way. We're giving the best energy for you guys to figure things out, and just keep listening. Where we have some interesting stories.
Yes. Interesting. It was such a pleasure to be invited on this.
Of
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Did it record?